Let's start with the model building phase. So here the problem statement is very simple, and what we are asking for to build a spam classifier which can tell whether a given message is spam or not. It's pretty a straightforward statement given by business. But when we start working on any machine learning project, we need to understand the problem statement in a better way so that we can frame our problem statement in context of machine learning. Because business will have different interpretation of the problem statement, and machine learning folks will have different interpretation of that statement. And in order to frame machine learning problem, we need to ask lots of questions to business to just find out relevant details. So like the first question could be, what's the trigger for business to frame this as a requirement? But we need to understand the pain point. Why business is looking to build a spam classifier to identify whether a given message is spam or not? What's the pain point, right? Because that will help you in understanding what would be the impact, and if something goes wrong, what would be the cost of it, right? So that's why we need to understand it from the root level, why it has been triggered as a requirement. And then we need to ask how it's currently done. Because if business has framed that as a requirement, then definitely business would be doing it manually or using some other mechanism, right? So that will also help you in framing your problem statement, that what additional we can provide to business so that it would be more effective or productive for business to identify whether a given message is spam or not spam. Then we need to understand what historical data we have, because that's the critical activity, right? Because if we don't have data, then we cannot build a machine learning model, right? So how much data we have, right? And from where we can get those historical data. Then we need to understand who would be our user, right? Because the same problem statement will have different meaning for different user group, right? If spam classifier implemented in public setting will have different meaning, but if we'll implement or deploy spam classifier within enterprise, will have different impact, right? And within enterprise also, if you would be implementing that for CIO level user group, then it will have different impact. So again, user plays a critical role in terms of defining your problem statement and understanding its impact, right? So user and where it would be deployed, right? So just try to understand the context in which the problem has occurred and how my spam classifier will interact with the environment, right? Because understanding those context will help you in finding out how quickly we need to deliver the results, right? Because we can build a spam classifier with the help of deep learning or more sophisticated model, right? But those model might not be suitable for the production environment because the response time is too high, and we cannot afford uh, for any delay in the response, right? And then we need to understand how business will measure its success, what criteria or what factors they will consider that spam classifier successful or spam classifier is not behaving as expected. We also need to understand from business what would be the key metrics they would be tracking. Right? Understanding the problem bit better will help you in framing your problem statement bit effectively, right? And you can all it will also help you in deciding how to divide your data so that you can evaluate your model effectively. Because if you'll not choose your data carefully based on your user or based on the environment in which it would be deployed, it will fail once it would be deployed in the production, right? And all the effort which we have spent in building the model and model training and evaluation, it would be useless, right? Because it's not solving the actual problem, and the users who would be accessing my spam classifier is not fit for purpose. Okay, so after discussing with business, we have come up with two set of requirements. Just to start with, I'm just copying it, pasting it here. So my first set of requirement is no valid message should be classified as spam message. And my second requirement is the response time should not be greater than 100 millisecond, right? So that's the requirement we have for spam classifier. We'll expand these requirements further, but in order to start our model building phase, we'll just take these two requirements as a base, and we'll build a very simple spam classifier so that we can build it and then further we can deploy it in production, right? So let's start the model building phase. For that, we would go to command prompt. So just navigate to the folder where I have stored all the training scripts. So it's within machine learning spam classifier, and within it training. So before we'll begin with the training activity, we need to create one virtual environment so that we can perform all the training activity in a separate isolated environment without breaking anything else. So I'm giving the name of my environment as ENV training. Okay, press enter. So it will create a virtual environment with the name of ENV training. So it has been created. So now we need to activate that environment. For that, we have script stored within the scripts folder, and within that we have activate.bat. Okay, so we can clearly see that ENV training environment has been activated. And now we need to install Jupyter Notebook. As we would be performing all our exploratory data analysis and model training activity within Jupyter Notebook. And for that, we need to install Jupyter Lab or Jupyter Notebook. So here I'm installing Jupyter Lab. Press enter. Okay, here spelling is not correct. Okay, Jupyter Lab. So it will pull all the dependencies and packages and will install it within our virtual environment. As you can see that it has dependencies on different packages, and that's why it's taking so much time. It would be deployed very soon, and once it would be deployed, we would be able to launch Jupyter Notebook, and we can start our data analysis and then further training activity. So it has been installed. So the second step, we need to create kernel so that we can connect Jupyter Lab with the kernel. IPY kernel, and then we need to install user. Then we need to give name. Just give any name. It would be used by internally by Jupyter, not anything for us. And for us, the important thing is display name. Display name, and here we'll be giving env spam kernel. Okay, press enter. It has been installed, and now we will launch Jupyter Lab. It's launched, right? So environment is coming up, right? So you can see I have just added all those problem statement and requirements here, right? And in the script, I have divided the entire notebook in different sections. So first I'm importing all the packages, then I'm loading data, I'm performing a quick data exploration, right? We'll discuss all those sections in detail. And then I am explaining bag of word concept, and then we are using bag of word concept to create features, text features, and using those features we would be building one very simple SVM classifier, and then we would be performing model evaluation against our validation data. Then we would be discussing about the model output, right? Which features have contributed to spam or ham classification, right? So we'll try to understand the model output, and then finally we'll load all the model artifacts to the AWS S3 so that we can use those model artifacts for production inference, production predictions, right? So let's start with first section, which is about the importing all the packages. So here you can see that I am using different packages for performing data analysis, right? I have used different packages for text pre-processing. For data visualization, I have used word cloud and matplotlib. For model building, I am mainly considering sklearn, scikit-learn, which is very popular machine learning package. And then I am using ELI 5 package for model interpretation. Photo 3 for AWS interaction, right? So it's a AWS SDK Python package for interacting with all the AWS resources, right? So those sort of packages I would be using in this demo. And as we are using the clean environment and we haven't installed any of these packages within our environment, it will fail. So just try to run it. It will fail because NumPy, which is the first statement, we haven't installed anything within our environment, right? So we need to install it first, and then we can start using this notebook for any data exploration or model building phase. So let's start. So just open another command prompt. We'll go to the same folder and we'll activate our training virtual environment, and then we'll install all the packages within that environment, right? So machine learning, PAM demo, training, and now we would be activating that environment, NP training, scripts, and within a script we have activate.bat. Okay, it has been activated. Now we'll see one by one. So here my first package is NumPy. So pip install NumPy. Give one space, and then we have pandas. So just give one space and provide all the packages in one go. Pandas, give space. Then we have joblib. Okay. We have NLTK. We have word cloud. Okay. Matplotlib. Scikit-learn. Then we have ELI 5. Okay. Finally, we have Boto. The purpose of showing this installation is to understand why it's important to keep track of the version which we have installed within our training environment, and how we can make our requirement text file for deploying the same set of packages within our production environment. Because we need to make sure that whatever version we are using within our development environment for training purposes, the same set of packages should be installed within your production environment, right? So it's a best practice to keep track of whatever version you are installing in one environment. Use same set of versions for testing it against different environment. It could be your uh, pre-production environment or production environments, or whatever environment you would be using for evaluation or for any other activities, right? So that's the here it's failing. Why it's failing? Word cloud. Have I give the name incorrectly? Word cloud. Let me check. Matplotlib. Okay, matplot. Okay, I have given the wrong incorrectly. Okay, continue. Yes. So you need to give the name correctly, otherwise it will fail. Like it has failed here. So now it's installing everything. You can see it has identified all the dependencies, packages, and installing within our training environment. Once it would be deployed, hopefully we will be able to run this entire block correctly without any failure. And after that, we'll check all the versions. Mainly, we will be checking all those versions which we would be using for production deployment, right? Because definitely we would not be using any packages which are required for data visualization or any other like model interpretation. We normally don't need those, right? So okay, it's done. Now we'll try to run it. Okay, so you can see that it has ran successfully without any failure, but it has given some warning messages. That's fine. That's fine. I mean, sklearn has given some warning statement. Just keep a note of this, right? Nothing to worry right now. And now we'll check all the versions, right? So we can see all the versions available. So that's the one way of checking the version. The other way we can check version with the help of another state. We have pip fridge. So this will also provide you all the versions which have been deployed in our environment, right? So and we can just pipe it and just move it to requirements.txt file, right? So you can see in this folder the requirement.txt file will appear, and this will act as a future reference, right? So whenever if anyone will ask what version you have used for any particular package, you can simply go to this file and refer the appropriate version, right? That's a very quick way, easy way to keep track of your package versions, right? Once this is done, we'll load the data. So I have data stored within data folder spam.csv, and this CSV file has only two columns. One is class and another is text. So class has two types. One is ham and another is spam. So ham is for non-spam messages and spam is for spam message, right? So after successful downloading the data, we can perform a quick data exploration just to see how much spam messages we have and how much ham message we have. So I'm just giving value count. I mean, that will give the number of messages available against each of the classes. And we can also check the distribution. So we can see that ham is 86.5% and spam is 13.4%. So that's okay. The data is imbalanced, but yeah, we'll see. Now we can check the length of different messages, right? Because we have lots of messages, right? We can also check size of how much data we have, right? So we can check data dot shape. So we have 5,572 messages. Right? So that's the distribution we have. We can also check the distribution using the histogram, right? So I have used the same length variable and I have plotted a histogram. And from this histogram, you can see that for most of the messages falls between 0 and 100 message length, right? So for some messages, it's longer, but for most of the messages, it's fall between this range 0 to 200. So that is okay. We have some outlier, but we don't need to worry too much right now. Next, I'm just plotting a word cloud so that we can see what are the words we have mostly used within any spam or non-spam sort of messages. So, right. So here I'm just plotting a word cloud for ham message, ham class category. And you can see that we have lots of messages like think, crazy, lives, joking, right? Point. So it looks okay, right? We don't have any word which looks like it falls under this spam category. So that is fine. Similarly, I have plotted the word cloud for spam messages also, and you can see that we have different words like cash, winner, mobile, network, free, right? Which looks like a spam message content, right? So in this way, we can simply check what are the mostly used word my message contains, and that will give you good indication of what exactly we are approaching to, right? So we have some differentiation which we can make between spam and non-spam messages, but let's see whether my model is able to distinguish those features or those values correctly or not, right? And now we'll tackle this problem with the help of bag of word approach, which is a very simple way of representing your text data in numeric representation, and it's one of the fundamentals of NLP, right? We always start with bag of words to create any training features against text data. So take an example. I have dummy text which contains two statements. One is this, and the another one is this one. So bag of word is a two-stage process. So in the first stage, what we'll do, we'll just try to find out what are the unique words we have in my text, right? So here, that's what I'm doing. I'm just taking each sentence and I'm splitting each sentence in words, and I'm appending those words within the vocab. And here I'm just finding out the unique set of vocabulary available within my corpus, right? And as an outcome of this activity, this is the output. These are the unique set of words which is available within my dummy text corpus. And these features will act as a column, as a feature, right? And we'll see how we can calculate. And what bag of words says that for each of these vocabulary words, we need to count how many number of instance we have for these words. So like in this example, how many times machine word appears. So in this example, machine word appear once. Whether this statement has any occurrences for it? No, it doesn't. So it will have value as 0 in this for this statement, and it will have value of 1 for this statement because this statement contains it once. So in this way, we'll create feature vector, right? And which is nothing but the count. And here I have written simple Python statement to calculate those features, right? And as an outcome, you can see that all the vocabulary word which we have calculated here, all these will act as a columns. That's what we can see it here. And the value is nothing but a count, how many times that particular word appears within that statement, right? So for the first statement, it appears once. For the second statement, we don't have any occurrences of machine. We have zero. In this manner, we have created a feature vector which will act as an input to my machine learning algorithm. So whatever machine learning algorithm we would be using, it will act as a feature. So that's a very simple concept, but is a very powerful mechanism. It has some drawbacks, but that's fine. We'll take those points in future video to understand what are the drawbacks we have for bag of words and how we can improve model performance by taking different aspects of our text, right? And we'll use the same approach, but this time we will be using Python inbuilt function which is count vectorizer. So count vectorizer is an efficient implementation of the same logic, right? So whatever we have written here, it's the implementation of similar logic but in more efficient manner. And I'm just training it on dummy text, right? So dummy text 2, right? I'm training it and I'm printing all the vocabulary, and you can see that vocabulary is same. Whatever we have found here, it's same. And this is the key, and this is the sequence number which this count vectorizer has assigned. So it starts with 1, 2, 3. So all the unique word will have different numbers, right? So that's what it's representing, this statement. And then we are transforming my dummy text. So once we'll perform the transformation, it will create the feature vector. And if you look carefully, the feature vector is exactly similar to what we have calculated here, right? 1 0 0 1 1, right? So it's similar. Definitely you can because here the sequence is different, but if you compare it, it will be same, right? So that's the concept of bag of word, and we'll use similar logic and we'll apply it to the spam classifier, and we'll build our model and will perform the evaluation phase, right? So in NLP, we always start with text data pre-processing, right? Because my data will have lots of words which are not very effective for model training. So one such type of category is stop word, right? So stop word are those words which are frequently used, like a, the, we. So these are the stop word, right? And these are not very effective to understand what is happening, right? And these features would not be very effective in terms of determining whether my message is spam or not spam. So that's why we are filtering all those words which contains stop list, and we are also ignoring all the punctuations. So that's where I have defined symbols. Symbol is nothing but punctuation. You can see it's punctuation, right? And I'm also lowering all the text, right? So that we'll have a consistent representation of all the words, right? And we're converting all the word to lowercase. And finally, we are performing a stemming. So stemming is also a very powerful mechanism where we'll convert all the words to the base level. So take an example, stemming, I'm just using this. So stemming of word like helping is help, right? The helped, right? So you can see that the base is same, right? And that's the purpose of stemming, it will go to the base level, right? What is the base of that word, right? So helping comes from help, right? Helps come from help, right? So that's what I'm doing here. I'm doing stemming of all the words, and then finally we are returning the filtered text back to my caller, right? So here I'm just taking text as a feature, and we are performing an apply operation. So that's a pandas operation. So I'm taking text feature, which is a text, performing an apply operation, and in that apply operation I am calling this function. So this function will return a pre-processed text back to my caller, and then further we'll use this text feature for performing any model training or evaluation phase, right? So now the first step before we'll begin the training activity, we need to divide training data into two parts. One is training and the other one is validation, right? So that we can assess the model performance against the validation data. And we will not use validation data for any sort of model training or for any sort of data transformation. It would be completely isolated from the training phase. And that's what I am doing here, right? I'm dividing data. I'm taking text feature as an input. I'm also providing the class feature and dividing it in 20. Text size would be 20. So my evaluation data set will contain 20% of the data, and my training data will contain 80% of the data. And now we'll create a text feature, right? So we have seen the bag of word feature here, right? So we'll perform same operation here, but this time we'll only take train feature, train data, and we'll perform a fit transform operation. So first it will perform a training against the train X data, and then it will convert the output of my text messages to numeric representation with the help of this count vectorizer function, right? So vectorizer dot fit transform will do those sort of things, and this variable will store my transformed numeric representation, which we will be using for model training. And in the next step, I am storing the vectorizer which we have just trained for any further activities, right? Because at the time of evaluation, we need to use same set of vectorizer which we have used for training. So that's why I'm storing it here, and we can further upload the vectorizer to cloud storage so that we can use the same vectorizer for prediction against new data, right? And here I'm using very simple SVM classifier. I haven't given any parameter, hyperparameter, right? And I'm just using default, all the default values, and I'm performing a training against the transform data. So I'm taking the transform train feature, right? So after model training, we'll store the data with the help of joblib, right? So we'll store the model. Once the model training gets completed, we need to perform evaluation to see how well my model behaves on unseen data, which is my evaluation, because we haven't used text or text-y for any model training or feature transformation, right? So we are safe that we can use these data. So here I am loading my model, right? So we have stored this as a part of my training activity. We are loading that model. We are also loading our vectorizer, and then we are transforming text data so that it can create numeric representation of my text, each text sentence, and then here we are predicting it. elf.predict will predict the outcome, and this will provide a prediction. And then finally, we are performing how accurate my model is. So here I'm performing the accuracy score test y. Test y is the actual prediction, and prediction is my prediction generated by my model. So I'm just taking these two as an input and passing this to accuracy score function. And this provides me 97.75 as an accuracy score, right? And we can also see the distribution of my validation data, how much data it contains, right? So my validation data has 949 message belongs to ham category and 166 message belong to spam category, right? And then we can also check the confusion matrix. So confusion matrix will help you in understanding how accurate my model is in terms of how much my model has correctly predicted spam and ham classes, and how much they have classified incorrectly. So here we can clearly see that 949 and 0. So that means my model is able to identify all the ham messages correctly, right? Because here the 949 is coming as, so these two are the actual count. So this belong to actual number of ham messages my model has identified, which is 945, and the actual count was 949, so which is correct. And this is the, my model has predicted 141 as spam, but here the actual count is 166. So that means my 25 spam messages has been classified as ham message, right? So these are the interpretation of confusion matrix, right? So I think as per our requirement, no ham message should be classified as spam messages. I think this simple model meets that requirement, right? Because we had 949 ham messages, and my model is able to identify all those ham messages correctly. So that's fine. So this simple model meets our requirement first. So once model evaluation is done, and because we have seen that my model has done some incorrect predictions, and which is 25, we need to understand what features my model has picked up, and we need to debug the model output to understand what went wrong and what additional features we can add so that it can distinguish between spam and ham messages more accurately. And for that, we will be using ELI package, which internally use Lime implementation for model interpretation, and it will provide you all the features which my model has picked for identifying any message as ham or spam. So here I have just defined a simple predict class, right? And I'm randomly checking one message which belongs to ham class. So I'm just taking text.values.10. I'm taking evaluation data. I'm not touching training data. I'm taking 10th row of my evaluation data, and I'm passing that data to text explainer to explain the model output. And as a part of text explainer, we would be using the model which we have trained, right? So it would use the model which we have trained, like CLF, which we had loaded. We will use the trained model and the validation data as an input, and it will provide you the output with the help of text explainer. So that's what this function is doing. And once you run these statements, it will provide you the features which my model has picked. So for the actual target for this message was ham, and my model has correctly identified that message as ham, which looks okay, right? Because it has predicted it accurately. And if you see the content, it looks okay, right? Because in this message, I think my model has picked the features correctly, because it looks like these are these features belongs to non-spam type of messages. So I have taken another example which belongs to spam class, and here you can see that my actual target was spam and my model predicted it's spam, so which is also correct. And you can see that it has some representation of mobile number, looks like wait urgent message, right? So it has picked some of the features which belongs to spam category, and using those features my model has identified that this belongs to spam category. So in this way you can look for the evaluation data, understand which text feature hasn't predicted accurately. We'll take those messages, we'll debug using the ELI package in this way, and we'll try to see what features those failed messages has picked, and that will help you in understanding how we can make our model more robust in terms of identify the message as spam. And that's the another aspect we need to understand, right? We can build new features, right? We can use different type of models, right? Because every model will have different ways of identifying spam and ham messages, right? So understanding the model output will help you in deciding what future actions you need to take to build more robust classifier. So once we are done with this activity, we need to load our model to S3, which is a cloud storage, AWS cloud storage, and we'll keep our model and all the model artifact in the remote location, which is AWS S3. So for that, I have written a simple function for uploading the files, and I have taken this from this here, Photo3 documentation, which is produced by Amazon. And in order to upload any file within AWS, we need three details, right? One is bucket name. Bucket name is nothing but a repository where we can store all the artifacts, all the objects, right? So if I will just show you what it means, just open it, and I will go to my management console. I will show you S3. Go to S3, and within S3 I have machine learning serving, right? So that's the bucket I have defined here, bucket name, and you can also create it with the help of just create bucket, right? It will create similar something like this. And next I have defined the model name. Model name would be stored within spam classifier folder, and within spam classifier it would be stored against this name. And here you can create one folder, create folder. As you can see that I have already created spam classifier as a folder, right? It contains these two models, right, which I had created initially. So for now I will just delete it just to show you. I will write permanently delete. Okay, delete object. Okay, so now it's clean. And once we'll run and we'll use this utility, and here I have given the model file name. So the model file name is the location where we have stored our model. So model artifact would be stored here. So again we'll delete it and we'll rerun everything from scratch. So delete it. Okay. So it's taking the same model file name which would be stored within this folder. We'll use the bucket name as an input where it would be stored. So bucket name in my case is machine learning serving, and within machine learning serving I'll be giving the object name where it would be stored. So it would be stored within spam classifier folder, and within spam classifier folder we'll have two objects. First object is spam model job lib and vectorizer dot joblib, right? So we'll rerun everything from scratch and we'll see. Run, run, okay, okay, okay. Build it. It will save the content of the model and vectorizer within this. So you can see it as it's stored, right? And now we'll perform evaluation. It's same, okay? Then the output. And now we'll upload it. So once you'll press enter, it will be stored. And now we can check whether it has been stored. Just refresh it. Okay, just go back. Now you can see it, right? So we have just uploaded all the model artifact within S3. And here you need to remember one thing. Here I have given, I'm connecting it to S3 resource, but I'm not passing any credentials. And the credential will by default will take from your profile which you have configured using AWS configure. So by default, it will take all those credentials from there and it will connect to your AWS resources. So that's it for now. Thanks for watching my video.